Good evening. My name is Mary McCarran, and I'm with Ohio EPA's Public Interest Center. I'm hosting today's virtual video premiere. Before I turn things over to Sherry Blair, I have a couple of tips about the technical end of today's event. All of the panelists should be able to speak throughout the event. In order to minimize background noise, please remember to mute yourself if you are not speaking. Also, please remember to unmute yourself to speak. Online participants should see a floating control panel at the top of your computer screen. During the meeting, the sound may fade in and out due to your internet connection. If you experience any problems with the sound, either wait a moment or two to see if it's restored, or using the icon on the floating control panel, close or disconnect from the audio portion of the presentation and then reconnect to restore the audio. If you can, please use the chat feature to report or receive assistance with any technical issues that you might have. At the end of the event, there will be time for online participants to share their comments, questions, and stories. So please use the chat feature to submit any comments or stories you'd like to share. I will read any questions or stories submitted via the chat aloud so panelists and attendees can hear. The comments and stories can be submitted at any time during the event, so feel free to chat them in at any time. Be sure to set your comment to all panelists so that our group of presenters and speakers can see your comments. I just got word that perhaps the audience cannot see the presentation, so let me reshare the screen. Sorry about that. Okay. In a few seconds, the screen should open, so I apologize for that. There should have been a slide screen, or a slide on your screen this whole time. When you're submitting your comments via the chat, please make sure you set your comment to all panelists so that our group of presenters and speakers can see your comments. If there are any technical issues that arise during the meeting, please let me know via the chat by sending them in to the host, and I'll be on throughout the meeting to help with any technical difficulties. I'm now going to pass the event on to Sherry Blair with Ohio EPA's Division of Surface Water.
Thank you, Mary, and good evening and welcome, everyone. Thanks for coming to our encore premiere showing of the Maumee Area of Concern video, Benefiting Our Community, Restoring Our Waters. My name is Sherry Blair. I'm proud to have worked for the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency as the Maumee Area of Concern Coordinator for the last 25 years on countless projects with many dedicated partners from both the public and private sector. Ohio EPA worked with David Ruck from Great Lakes Outreach Media to create this video that highlights the progress seen in our AOC from the implementation of remediation and restoration projects. As you will see in the video, the success of these efforts is improving the conditions in the AOC and bringing beneficial use impairments, or BUIs, closer to removal. Our encore premiere showing today will include the second public viewing of this video, followed by comments from panelists who were involved in its production. We will then answer questions from participants on the call. As Mary mentioned, you can chat your questions or stories in now. We will wrap up with how you can get involved and learn more about the Maumee AOC. But before we share the video with you, Ohio EPA Director Lori Stevenson would like to say a few words. Lori?
Great. Thank you, Sherry. I really appreciate your remarks and setting the stage for what our second premiere today of the video. I had an opportunity to review it earlier today, and it's really well done. We are super excited for everyone to see it. I just want to take a moment to thank, my team, some of whom you will see in the video, Sherry, as well as Shannon Neighbors, Archie Lindsay, who have been involved in the projects that you're about to see in our showcase here for many years. So thank you to them for their efforts, for their contributions, for the team on the video overall, and to all of our partners who have helped us all along the way and who we will be working with in the future. So I want to acknowledge the Maumee AOC Advisory Committee and partners for Clean Streams and others of you out there who have worked with us and will be working with us in the future on the important projects in the Maumee area. So, you know, as Sherry said, the video highlights the many years of restoration and preservation work that has taken place and is taking place in the Maumee River AOC as we all work together towards the common goal of achieving fishable and swimmable waterways. So I sincerely hope that you enjoy the presentation today and that you have a great discussion afterwards. And we want to thank you for your time this evening. So with that, Sherry, I will turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Director. The identification of projects, coordination of BUI evaluations, and the sharing of information are all accomplished by Ohio EPA in partnership with the Maumee AOC Advisory Committee, also known as the MAC. Mike Panuski is the Lucas County engineer and current chair of the Advisory Committee, and he would like to offer a few words before we do our showing.
Thank you, Sherry. Just want to take this time to thank Ohio EPA and the US EPA for all their efforts in advancing to where we are in the Maumee AOC. As you'll see in today's video, you'll see how far we've come into tackling a lot of the issues we have in terms of our beneficial use impairments. And I'm really excited in the future, the committee and others, a committee that's composed of really committed people from government, from the industry, and from NGOs, non-governmental organizations that are really committed to making our AOC a great place to live, work, and prosper. And I'm really excited to introduce the video today, kind of that outlines all the work that we've done to date. But the really exciting part is what we're going to be doing in the future. And I look forward and are committed to a great future where our AOC, where all of our BUIs are delisted, and we have a great place and a great watershed to enjoy. So thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing today's encore premiere.
Thank you, Mike. Mary has just a few pointers for you as we prepare you to show you the video, just some viewing tips from her. Mary?
Thanks, Sherry. As I mentioned before, please use the chat feature to submit any questions or comments you may have, and be sure to set your chat to all panelists. We are streaming a compressed version of the video today, so it will be broadcast clearly and smoothly, but it will be a lower resolution than what it was actually filmed in. But you will be able to access the high definition version of the premiere event video via Ohio EPA's YouTube channel. During the video stream, you can maximize the screen on your desktop by clicking the arrows in the lower right-hand corner of your WebEx window. As shown on this slide, that little blue circle, there are 2 arrow buttons. You'll want to hit both of those arrow buttons to get the screen as big as it can be on your computer. And again, we're trying to, we did a lower resolution streaming during this broadcast to ensure that the video is as smooth as possible. However, if your internet connection at home is not strong, you may see some lag in the video streaming. All right, I believe we are ready to show the video you all came here to see. We will be having a few words after the video is finished, after the credits roll. So I just encourage you to stick with the event after the video. And while the video loads, there may be a slight pause while it loads, but it should be up and running pretty soon.
The Maumee Area of Concern is a geographic area that we at Ohio EPA work with local partners and US EPA and other federal agencies to evaluate any contamination or damages to wildlife and the biology in the area, assess the contamination or challenges that we have in our watersheds, and work together to find solutions to repair the environmental health of the area.
Our area of concern is one of the largest. It's 787 square miles. It's the third largest AOC.
This family of rivers, polluted with acids and caustics, chemicals and oil residues, gradually turns an inky black. The river has become an overflow sewer burdened with the accumulated debris of a dozen cities.
The United States and Canada entered into the Great Lakes Water Quality Agreement to further the protection of the Great Lakes and the restoration of the Great Lakes. One part of the Great Lakes Water Quality Agreement focuses on looking at some of the more contaminated and environmentally challenged areas.
At Ottawa, all kinds of chemicals and organic and mysterious wastes are piled on a floodplain.
When we started with the investigation, the Ottawa River was heavily contaminated with kind of the potpourri of contamination. And the contamination was high enough such that we had contact advisories. We did not allow people to come in contact with or to swim, to recreate, to do anything in the river itself, let alone use fish from the Ottawa to eat.
The accumulated debris is bulldozed down to the water's edge, from which saturated materials run from the river directly.
So when you're looking at the number of landfills that basically abut the Ottawa River, each of them were contributing contamination.
The investigation has determined that the landfills are contaminating the Ottawa River with PCBs, with pesticides, with volatile organic compounds, benzene and xylene and toluene.
If you took a fish out of the Ottawa River in some of those hot zones, the toxic levels were so high that if you put the fish back in the river, it would be illegal because it was considered a toxic contaminant.
We want to take you over the next half hour on a journey through the currents of time to let you know what has happened to this river, the impact the abuse has had on these waters, and what's being done to clean the waters up.
I was the manager who was responsible for the development of solutions to clean up the contamination for all of the landfills along the Ottawa River, putting the caps on the landfills, making sure that we were containing the waste, and fulfilling the strategy basically to allow new contamination to be stopped. There was the promulgation of new federal standards where the federal government, Ohio EPA, and some of the parties who were responsible for contamination then had to start sitting down and talking about what are you responsible for? How are you actually going about your responsibilities, and how does that impact what I'm doing? The partnership worked so well. It was so effective, so efficient. It was one of the fastest remediations done from start to finish.
I think there was great hope that maybe something could be done someday, that we would see this river return to, if not pristine quality, at least to a usable quality. And now we're seeing that things have progressed.
We're happy to say that the Ottawa River has had a reduction from a do not eat advisory to a minimal advisory. We've also had a do not touch advisory completely removed. The progress is happening. We are seeing success. People who want to boat and recreate in these waters can now do safely.
Because that was so collaborative, so effective, so efficient, it's now kind of the model that we're looking at to try to look at other watersheds within the Maumee AOC.
If you think about a water body having wildlife and habitat and fish and being used for drinking water and being recreated in the public, those are uses that we all gain from the water. And if those uses are impaired, they need to be improved. And so a beneficial use impairment are those things that we identify in these areas of concern that we need to work on collectively as a community.
The Maumee AOC originally had 10 of the 14 BUIs to address. Now we have 9, but we certainly still have a lot of work to do over the next several years to address those BUIs.
BUI restoration targets are really important. Without having those specific goals, there's no way to determine whether or not we're making progress towards meeting our objectives to getting rid of these beneficial use impairments. For loss of wildlife habitat as a BUI, we needed to protect and restore something like 3,500 acres of habitat.
We're out at the Penn 7 site, one of the restoration projects for the Maumee AOC. When the river was being dredged 50 years ago, this is where they would put some of those dredged materials. So if we can make this a productive wildlife habitat and some potential collateral benefits for fisheries as well as nutrient treatment, I think all around that's going to benefit the city of Toledo and improve the habitat and the condition of the Maumee River.
Cedar Point in particular is the largest contiguous wetland on this side of Lake Erie. One of our restoration projects here is the fish passage structure. It helps us open a connection between this wetland and Lake Erie, allowing native species such as the northern pike to enter and use this habitat for rearing and spawning. It provides water quality and habitat benefits for both us and Lake Erie. This fish passage and water control structure is made possible through our partnerships with Ducks Unlimited, the Nature Conservancy, NOAA, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and GLRI.
It's also the partnerships and trust that has been developed among the stakeholders that has really led to a lot of momentum and projects that are being implemented now.
So Metro Parks' role within the AOC, while our mission is always oriented towards conservation and protection of natural areas, the other really important thing that we do is make opportunities for people to come and enjoy them.
Here along Swan Creek is one of those areas. We're working with USCPA to identify the sediment contamination and possible cleanup that needs to happen, but we also want to build those partnerships with our local community leaders and businesses and citizens to work together to clean up contamination in the streams, but also look for ways to restore and bring people down to the river again.
The Oak Openings region is just this really, really unique ecosystem. There are 5 different habitats within the system that are globally rare. Part of how Maumee AOC can help the region is by helping reconnect it, to restore the habitat, protect it, educate people about the importance of the habitat. We've really tried to expand the experiences people can have outdoors. We really want them to be able to connect to the natural areas.
Howard Marsh was a former coastal marsh with Cedar Creek flowing through it, and it was ditched and drained for agricultural purposes. So one of the main objectives of this project, other than restoring habitat, was to provide an opportunity for the public. This project has just been super successful in doing that. In the first 6 or 8 months the property was open to the public, they had more than 60,000 visitors.
We worked with Ducks Unlimited and came to find out that this was one of their biggest true restoration projects in a 22-state region.
There's really this very rich and long-standing tradition of waterfowl and waterfowl hunting here in the Maumee area concern. It's really important to try to connect our kids, our youth, to the outdoors, and that's part of what this event is about. It's getting people to connect to the land in the AOC, and we're hoping that that's going to lead to better stewardship of the land.
So Clean Your Streams Day has been going on for 23 years. It is a way to address the aesthetics beneficial use impairment. The rivers and streams in the area of concern in the Maumee looked pretty yucky decades ago. So there's oil, there was grease, there was just a lot of floating debris washing down the rivers. And so the Aesthetics BUI really looks at addressing how rivers and streams look and how the community views those rivers and streams so they feel like they're clean and clear and safe. We work a lot towards fishable and swimmable rivers, and one of the ways that Partners for Clean Streams does that is by bringing in the community to be stewards for our waterways.
The Area of Concern program was driven to clean up our environment and meet our beneficial uses. And the Student Watershed Watch is a program where we can educate youth to understand their impacts on our environment, and they're the ones who are going to carry this mission forward into the future.
Students will participate in the Student Watershed Watch Summit. So students from several different schools will share what they found out about the body of water that's closest to their school. In doing so, we get an overall picture of the state of our watershed. This lets us know how each of these different schools throughout the Toledo area are connected and how we all interact with each other through water.
We should really look back with a lot of pride on all the efforts that have been done to help address water quality restoration efforts, to understand where we are in relationship to each of the BUIs, and then what needs to be done to lead to the delisting of each of those BUIs within our area of concern.
The AOC program has really helped us get over the bar and meet all of our objectives as it relates to tying these natural areas together. It's been a critical program to prioritize conservation actions and to get partners together to work collectively to solve these problems.
It really reflects the overall environmental health of a community. The areas of concern are areas of everyone's concern.
This is my dad. And this is my daughter, and he brought me up doing this hunting, fishing. It gives you a value for Mother Nature, and I think that's a great thing for the youth.
I didn't realize how important parks were and how important these public natural spaces were, because growing up, I just had it. We lived on a farm. I just realized, boy, without parks, what would people do?
Besides the scenic beauty that it provides, the amount of birds and other wildlife that I get to see on a daily basis is exciting, it's fun, and it's very rewarding knowing that I'm working to promote habitat for these species.
I can connect people to the natural resources in this area, and once they've had an experience, they can care more about it and understand the importance of it.
We have local partners, businesses, citizens, nonprofit organizations that are very concerned about their waterways and interested in being involved. And they work together with their local governments, with state governments and the federal governments to bring all the resources to the table for the benefit of the community and for the restoration of our waters.
Well, there's the video. We're so excited to be able to share with you tonight. What a great story. There's so much amazing success and momentum happening right now in the Maumee AOC, from the sediment cleanup to habitat restoration, education, outreach. It's just all really great stuff going on. We'd like to give some of our video stars a chance to tell you a little bit more about their involvement in the Maumee AOC and what they think about the success that they're seeing. Our first panelist tonight will be Shannon Neighbors from Ohio EPA's Northwest District Office. Shannon?
Thank you, Sherry, and good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to join you, and thank you for joining us to see the video and to hopefully share in some conversation. A little bit about myself. As the screen shows, I'm the District Chief for Ohio EPA's field office in Northwest Ohio. Since 2004, my role in the AOC program has primarily been to help coordinate activities within Ohio EPA that work towards addressing waterway health issues, contaminant sources, cleanup of that contamination, and importantly, helping to support the overall program by providing connections and creating partnerships and supporting projects. Working for a regulatory agency, I have a unique role in working in enforcing environmental laws and regulations, but also working to build relationships with the local communities and organizations or voluntary work that also improves our local environment. And all of this combined leads to healthier lands and waters and places for people to work and live and recreate. And it truly is an honor to be part of that work and to work with so many dedicated professional individuals in a lot of areas and walks of life to get there. The video touches on how through responsibility and cooperation, many organizations and industrial partners and nonprofits came together to address the polluted properties along the Ottawa River. And this work is very fulfilling, and it's intense and complicated and very expensive and challenging. And it really, truly requires a community that cooperates to make cleanups of this size and complexity and the restoration of those polluted sites become a reality. And how that came together on the Ottawa River, as was mentioned by Archie Lindsay in the video, was hugely successful. And by partnering with USEPA through the Great Lakes Legacy Act program, which is a program that specifically focuses on funding the investigation and cleanup of contaminated sediments in our waterways, we achieved significant progress in a relatively short amount of time as compared to what a typical environmental cleanup may take. And we are hoping to build on this model in other areas of concerned waterways. And also, I ponder this at times and think about the many years I've been involved. And cleaning up that contamination is critical. And the one thing I think, if we focus on that cleaning up of contamination as the start of a great future instead of the end of a tainted past, we can really purposefully connect each other to incredible opportunities that are created as an outgrowth to environmental improvement. And the focus of the AOC program can go way beyond cleaning up polluted properties and restoring habitat. It can lead to creating stronger communities and strengthening pride and engagement within an area. And that's what I really love about working in our area of concern. It brings together diverse groups of people to build stronger communities through ecosystem improvements. And for example, if an organization's mission relates to building healthy lifestyles, they can be part of the conversation and solutions by building a walking path or a kayak launch along a restored waterway. Or if an organization's focus is about creating spaces for community events, these restored areas can provide opportunities in that way too. Or if a group is focused on creating opportunities for business development using formerly contaminated properties that have been cleaned up, can also fall within the lines of that organization and the AOC's goals. So community engagement within our AOC is real. And the accomplishments that we've made and the possibilities we have moving forward are what give me hope and drive for the future, and especially in our Maumee area of concern. And I'll turn it back over to you, Sherry.
Thank you, Shannon. Those are great words to think about. Our next two panelists have helped to restore hundreds of acres in the Maumee area of concern. First, we'll hear from Tim Sheeter from Metro Parks Toledo, then Russ Terry from Ducks Unlimited. Tim, what would you like to share tonight?
Thank you, Sherry. So I've been a member of the AOC Advisory Committee since 2015, and I've also served on the subcommittee focusing on loss of wildlife habitat as a beneficial use impairment. I've also been with Metro Parks Toledo for over 16 years now. And Metro Parks Toledo is an Ohio Special Park District that serves Lucas County and the surrounding communities. And we're all about protecting and restoring high-quality natural areas across the greater Toledo area, and also connecting people to them by creating meaningful and accessible outdoor experiences for the entire community. Since being with Metro Parks, I've been fortunate to be involved with a lot of projects. We've protected and restored over 5,000 acres of new parkland in the Oak Openings region, along the Maumee River and its tributaries, and within the Lake Erie coastal marsh region. And what's been really rewarding is that all this work has been accomplished only with strong partnerships that were made possible with many of the people and the organizations that are on the call today. In the AOC program in particular, has been a critical source of funding for us to address loss of fish and wildlife habitat as a beneficial use impairment. So with AOC funding, we've specifically been able to address these BUIs by expanding Oak Openings Preserve, improving habitat within the Oak Openings Corridor, improving wildlife and fish habitat at Secor Metro Park, as well as at Howard Marsh. Collectively, this has been over 500 acres that have been protected and restored directly with AOC funds. And for perspective, this is bigger than the area of Wildwood Metro Park, which is our busiest and most popular park. So I can't thank Ohio EPA enough for their strong leadership, and as well as the leadership of the Maumee AOC Advisory Committee that has allowed us to be able to do all these great projects. And with that, I will turn it over to Russ.
Hey, thank you, Tim, and good evening, everyone. My name is Russ Terry. I'm a wildlife biologist with Ducks Unlimited. I've been with the organization for over 22 years now. For those of you that may not be familiar with Ducks Unlimited, we are a national nonprofit wetland conservation organization, and we do have a very strong focus right here in the Great Lakes. In fact, we established a regional office in Michigan to facilitate our habitat conservation work throughout the Great Lakes region back in 1998. And my job is to coordinate and deliver all of Ducks Unlimited's habitat conservation work in the state of Ohio. Since DU began conserving habitat in Ohio back in the mid-90s, we've worked with a wide range of conservation partners to deliver over 90,000 acres of wetland conservation. In recent years, a lot of that work has been done right here in the Maumee area of concern. We've been very active over the past 10 years or so, working with the AOC and all the partners in the area to deliver habitat conservation to help address beneficial use impairments, primarily those related to fish and wildlife habitat loss. DU's primary roles in the AOC are to work with the AOC committee to identify good habitat projects that will lead to delisting BUIs. We receive and administer federal Great Lakes Restoration Initiative grant funds to implement approved management actions. And then one of our niche services is our engineering shop. And we have a full service engineering shop and often provide the topographic survey, engineering design, bidding and contracting, and construction management services for these large and complex coastal and riverine wetland projects in the AOC and throughout Ohio. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Sherry.
Thanks, guys. That was great information about what your organizations do and how it dovetails so nicely with what the Maumee AOC is trying to accomplish. Next up, we have Jenny Carter-Cornell, who's our past chair and current vice chair of the Maumee AOC Advisory Committee from Hall & Associates. Jenny?
Thanks, Sherry. I've seen amazing restoration progress in the Maumee AOC over the years. Work began with the AOC program in 1987, and I started working at TMCOG in 1994, first as an intern and then as a planner to help coordinate and implement AOC activities. When I started working on these efforts, there was significant momentum based on the work that had just been completed to prepare the Stage 1 and 2 reports that identified sources of impairment and recommended activities for source reduction, remediation, and restoration. In those early years, there were 8 subcommittees: agriculture, dumps and landfills, open space and wetlands, urban runoff, Ottawa River, Swan Creek, finance, and public outreach. Members were vocal advocates for our waterways and held officials to high standards to address issues such as leaking dumps and combined sewer overflows. They helped create pilot and demonstration projects to raise awareness of things like wetland restoration, stream bank stabilization, and filter strips, and worked hard to start programs now known as the Student Watershed Watch and Clean Your Streams. The Maumee AOC has evolved as issues were addressed, policies and programs were administered by others to help take care of problems, and as funding became available. Our volunteers still carry forward the original mission of the program for fishable, swimmable waters and stand on the shoulders of wonderful environmental advocates, state and local public officials, and university, non-governmental organizations and business representatives that have since retired or moved on. My role has changed from a paid coordinator as a TEMACOG employee to a volunteer, while also having the opportunity to work on certain projects through my employer, Hall & Associates. Throughout the life of the program, Ohio EPA has provided strong and critical leadership, and federal partners have been extremely helpful. You saw Sherry Blair, Shannon Neighbors, and Archie Lindsay in the video, and we are truly lucky to have their great support and the support of many of their colleagues at Ohio EPA. The Maumee AOC Advisory Committee now consists of 13 voting members and a very active subcommittee focused on aquatic habitat and benthic and fish communities. Millions of dollars dedicated to Maumee AOC priorities through the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative and other local, state, and federal programs have turned many remediation, protection, and restoration plans to reality. We have seen enormous progress and tangible water quality benefits in our AOC. And with our goal to complete projects by 2024, I know we will see many more benefits to our local water resources in the near term. It has been a pleasure and an honor to be involved with this program over the last 26 years, and it's great to see this video that helps capture the details and benefits of many noteworthy efforts. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jenny. Our last panelist this evening is Chris Patterson from Partners for Clean Streams. Chris?
Hi, thanks. I'm the Executive Director for Partners for Clean Streams. It's a local nonprofit organization supporting the Maumee AOC, and I've been working on Maumee AOC issues since 1997. Engaging the public and many different partners has always been a core priority for the area of concern work. Sometimes that means sitting through a lot of meetings, and sometimes it means going out on the water or along the water and working on stewardship and education, like the Cleaner Streams program and TEMACOG Student Watershed Watch that were highlighted in the movie. Oftentimes, many people don't even know that they're supporting the work of the area of concern, working with us towards fishable and swimmable conditions, but they know that they're making an immediate impact and that by teaching the next generation, we're making a long-term difference to protect our environment. Over the last few decades, we've seen many partners invest millions in doing the on-the-ground and in-the-water work with us. The first 15 years or so, we're laying the foundation, getting our arms around the contamination and the legacy issues. And the next 10 and 15 years, we'll be restoring and protecting thousands of acres, removing contaminated sediment, replanting barren stream banks, and adding more floodplain connection. And sometimes even literally removing more than 350,000 pounds of trash from our rivers. It's these partners, whether a public agency, a private business, or an individual, that have done the heavy lifting to address the historic and urban impacts that the AOC program focuses on. Our role is to continue the education and engagement of all those partners to keep the momentum going strong so that we all get to enjoy healthier waterways, wildlife communities, and natural habitats. I'm excited to see what the next 5 years will bring. Thanks, Sherry.
Thanks, Chris. And thanks to all of our panelists for sharing such wonderful stories of commitment and dedication to making our part of Northwest Ohio and the Maumee AOC healthier for all who live, work, play, and visit our area. Now we would like to hear any brief stories or questions that our audience has chatted in. Mary, does our audience have anything to share with us?
We have not had any questions or stories chatted in at this point, so I'm going to ask the panel a question. Can you give the audience a sneak peek at any upcoming work that will continue to improve the area of concern?
Well, I could probably go on for at least 30 minutes on that question, but I'm going to let some of our panelists address it. Tim, would you like to go first?
Sure. Thanks, Sherry. I guess one of the things that I'm really happy to report is our major effort to refocus conservation and restoration in the urban center of Toledo. So Glass City Metro Park, which is going to be opening this November, is the first part of a larger project which will ultimately tie together 5 miles of riverfront in downtown Toledo with 300 acres of walkable open spaces for the public to enjoy and really refocus attention to the splendor of what is the Maumee River. So I'm thrilled to be able to report that and looking forward to seeing that come to fruition.
Any of our other panelists want to hop in here?
So the city of Toledo has a pretty neat project underway. You saw pictures of it on the video. It's the Penn 7 property where Sherry was standing. And then there was also a really neat aerial of the site when Tim was talking. And it's in the Maumee River, near the mouth of the river, just upstream of the wastewater treatment plant. It's a 59-acre former confined disposal facility where sediments dredged from the shipping channel in the Maumee were placed in the late 1960s and early 1970s. So the city of Toledo's contractors, who started just a few weeks ago, as I mentioned, are connecting this system to the Maumee River. So they're going to be breaching the dikes, or the dike along the upstream portion of the property, and excavating an area to create deeper pools and wetland habitat. And then there's a channel in the back of the property that will then connect to the embayment further downstream that will be protected by a dike. And there will be a water control structure with fish passage opportunities there as well. So this is a really neat restoration project that's going to be a wonderful place for fish spawning and nursery habitat. It's been estimated that this site will provide quality space for over 40 species of Lake Erie fish, and it will be wonderful for native birds, amphibians, reptiles, mammals, and the benthic community. So altogether, the area that will be excavated is about 9.5 acres, and then the area protected in the embayment is 8.5 acres, and then lots of the upland areas will have improved habitat as well. So it's a really neat project. It was funded through the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative, through the NOAA and the Great Lakes Commission Regional Partnership, and they had a subcontract to the city of Toledo. Partners include Ohio EPA, ODNR, and then my firm, Hull & Associates, was hired to help do the engineering, design, and permitting. And now we hope that construction will be finished by the end of the year.
Yeah, here at the County Engineer's Office, Lucas County is implementing about 2 miles of two-stage ditch projects. And two-stage ditches have a lot of purposes and a lot of benefits. But what they really do is they replace a lot of floodplain that has been removed as a result of agricultural change in the past. And two-stage ditching replaces and restores a lot of those riparian floodplains by planting a lot of native vegetation along the banks. And that native vegetation allows for the slowing of velocities that erode and keep particulates suspended in water so it doesn't reach the lake, as well as serves as a filter to take a lot of the phosphorus and nitrogen and other particulates out of the water column before it reaches Lake Erie. Right now we just completed 2 projects that implemented about 2.5 miles of two-stage ditch. And we have another 3 projects that will be between this year and next year, which will put in another 2.5 miles of two-stage ditch, which puts in Lucas County about 5 to 6 miles of two-stage ditch, which I think is really unprecedented in Northwest Ohio. It's really our commitment to do more of these projects, to put a lot more two-stage ditches in, and they really serve as a way to both restore kind of a natural flow and a natural function to a lot of our streams, as well as serve as a way to remove phosphorus and nitrogen from the water column, as well as improve water quality by encouraging the filtering and settlement of particulates in the water column. So we're really excited about it, and we really look forward to implementing these and a lot more over the coming years.
Hey, Sherry, this is Russ Terry over at DU. If we have time, I've got one project I can share some information on.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Ducks Unlimited is currently working with Toledo Metro Parks, the Ohio Division of Wildlife, and NOAA to complete the full restoration of the 987-acre Howard Marsh Metro Park in Lucas County. A lot of the wetland video that you saw earlier was taken at Howard Marsh Metro Park Phase 1, where we restored almost 600 acres of row crop agriculture back to coastal marsh, reconnected it to Lake Erie for fish passage and so forth. Phase 2 is in the late design phase now by Ducks Unlimited with funding provided by NOAA. And Metro Parks of Toledo is going to be bidding out the construction later this fall, and we anticipate a construction contractor being on site in the spring to initiate construction. This will be about 200 additional acres of coastal wetland restoration in current agricultural fields. These wetlands will be connected to Lake Erie for fish passage and nutrient exchange, and the property will be open, just like Phase 1, for public recreational use, including kayaking and bird watching, fishing, and waterfowl hunting as well.
That's great. Thanks, Russ. Mary,
I'm sorry, Shannon.
Go ahead,
Shannon. So Ohio EPA is also working on some really critical projects. In the video, we focused a lot on the Ottawa River sediment removal and all the projects that were along the Ottawa River that has led to the incredible progress we've seen there. But there is also focus on other contaminated sediment sites in the AOC. Really excited. In the Otter Creek area, there is a local group of industrial partners that's working with the Army Corps of Engineers through and US EPA through Great Lakes Legacy Act to do a sediment project there, which is really exciting that they're working together as a team and a group to achieve some remediation in Otter Creek. And then we're also working with US EPA and trying to find all those parties that might want to partner with US EPA and Ohio EPA on sediment remediation in Swan Creek. We have some pockets of sediment that need to be cleaned up in Swan Creek. And then also in the main stem of the Maumee, there are a few areas that we're evaluating on the contaminant levels to see what we can do to address those as well. And really, once those two areas are finished, we are hoping that we can kind of say the sediments in the AOC have been appropriately evaluated and remediated as needed, and that really will contribute to improving habitat and the biology in the area. So we're really excited. We have a really aggressive schedule to try to get these projects done by 2024, and that means a lot of people are going to have to come together like we did on some of the other projects to see that happen. And I'm really confident with everything we have going on in the community with waters that we're going to be able to do that.
Great. Thanks for that information, Shannon. If anyone is interested in getting more involved in Great Lakes Legacy Act project or becoming a partner in that process, you can reach out to me or Shannon. We'd be able to help you with that. We did have a few questions, I think, chatted in, maybe, Mary?
Yes, we have one question from Paul J. How are these projects related to H2 Ohio Water Quality Plan and Ohio Department of Natural Resources?
I think I'll take that question. Some of our management action projects that our subcommittees have been working on identifying for the benefit of fish habitat, fish populations, and benthic or macroinvertebrate communities, the bugs that live in the bottom of the rivers and streams. We're trying to improve those, and a number of the H2 Ohio projects are helping us to do that. We are also helping to identify potential project sites for future H2 Ohio projects that are within the area of concern. In the first round of H2 Ohio funding, 8 projects have been funded in the Maumee AOC, and all of them are in some varying stages of being implemented. Some are at engineering and design, some are in an investigation, and some are acquisition, and some are getting ready to be implemented. So we are working in tandem with ODNR in the efforts in the Maumee AOC. We work with about 3 or 4 different divisions in the Department of Natural Resources on the efforts to identify properties and projects in the AOC. And actually, some of the projects we're funding through the AOC program are being funded on ODNR property. We've done a number of Division of Forestry expansion projects for the Maumee State Forest, as well as working at the Toussaint State Wildlife Area and other places around the AOC. So we are working in tandem with them. Thanks for that question. Anything else, Mary? I think, do you have any other comments?
Yes, we got a question from Jordan Rofkar. He is asking, which BUIs do you feel have seen the greatest improvement in the AOC?
I guess I'd have to say the greatest improvement has been in the BUI that we removed, but we're looking to remove additional BUIs in the near future of the next couple of years. As we all know, ecosystem restoration is, Mother Nature doesn't move super fast. So once we remove contamination or once we improve habitat, sometimes it takes a little while for everything to get restored to a natural, productive, and healthy state. So we're looking to see a lot of improvement in the wildlife habitat because we've been working on those projects for 3 or 4 years now. And following on the heels of that, I would expect some major improvements in the contaminated sediments arena. And then following that, we'll look at those aquatic benefits of those projects that we're expecting to have funded over the next 3 or 4 years. Do any other panelists want to add to that as to which BUIs you've seen the greatest improvement beyond what I just described?
Sherry, this is Shannon. I think, one thing to focus on here is while maybe contaminated sediments isn't technically listed as, one of those real hard impairments, it affects the biology. It affects water, the water quality, the drinkability of the water. And I think one thing I always think of is when we look at the incredible progress we've had on the Ottawa River and, fish we used to pull out of there, like pointed out in the video, some were so unbelievably contaminated they actually needed to be disposed of and, as a TSCO PCB waste. We now can eat fish out of that river. People can touch that water. And so I do think, there have been some incredible positive movement in biology and the health of the biology and the health of the fishery. And then just if we look at the amount of acres of habitat that is being created and restored is I think, another one that I think ranks pretty high up there and kind of answering this question at this point in time. Thanks.
Thanks, Shannon. Anyone else before we move on? Okay. I guess we just kind of have one final message for you. We want to let the audience know how, you can learn more about these projects that we're talking about and how you can get involved in the AOC's efforts. And Chris is going to give you a little information on that.
Okay, before I jump into that real quick, though, I don't want to miss the last comment that came in. And I would field it over to Tim. Paul J. is asking if the residents of Lucas County will have any input into Howard Marsh Phase 2. And then he has some ideas on another restoration project out in Franklin County that is a little bit different.
Yeah, I can answer that. I was actually in the process of typing a response for Paul. But just very quickly, the public has already provided input. So the plans that Ducks Unlimited is finishing with the engineering design are based on the original concepts that the public helped us develop way back in 2013 when we planned the entire project. So due to the overall cost of the project, we were not able to do the restoration of everything at once. So this Phase 2 project is a result of those original plans. It was, again, just delayed due to funding. I'm really excited to report, relative to his question about how it's being paid for, 100% of the funds to complete this project are being funded through NOAA and the Maumee AOC program. So this is not being funded at all with Lucas County taxpayer money. So again, hats off to NOAA and the Maumee AOC program and DU for all of their work in making this happen.
Awesome. Thanks, Tim. I didn't want to miss that last comment there. So there's been great feedback tonight and discussion. And if you want to get even more involved in the Maumee Area of Concern Advisory Committee or learn more about the projects in the area of concern, you can visit the Maumee AOC website at maumeeaoc.org. And to talk a little bit more about the Maumee AOC Advisory Committee that's been mentioned, the committee advises Ohio EPA and the Lake Erie Commission on the priorities and data gaps in the area of concern. It meets quarterly, but for subcommittees, it meets a lot more often than that when we're working hard to address some issues. And there are several categories of membership. One category, the voting members, has an application process. The applications can be downloaded from the website under resources and sent in via email by November 18th. And the email address and instructions are right on that application. Or if you wanted to join as a resource member, that's somebody that doesn't have to make every meeting. They provide input, whether it's public citizen input or a technical input, but you can join as a resource member by just sending an email to Sherry or I, and then you'll be notified of the virtual meetings. So there's also ways to follow us from a distance, of course, on the Area of Concern social media at Maumee AOC. And you'll hear about new projects, more work on the current projects, and the progress that continues to be made in the Maumee Area of Concern. If you want to get involved in some of the stewardship activities, like the Cleaner Streams program that's been mentioned, you can check out Partners for Clean Streams website and our social media at PCS Maumee. And we can also connect you to other partners in the area that are doing education and outreach and leading programs like the TMCUG Student Watershed Watch in the area of concern, if that's what you like to do. Also on our YouTube channel for Partners for Clean Streams, or again to plug Ohio EPA's, the full video in high def is going to be released on YouTube very soon. So the movie highlighted how much momentum and wonderful work is being done by so many partners, but it's only a sliver of what's going on every day. Over the next 5 years, there will be much more coming for the Maumee Area of Concern, and we hope that you'll follow along on the rest of the story with us as it unfolds. So thank you for joining us for the movie premiere tonight, and keep following what we're doing through one of the avenues that I mentioned.
Thanks, Chris. So as we wrap up our session, I would like to thank all of the partners who contributed information, resources, and time to the production of this video. I'd like to thank our panelists, especially Director Stevenson and Chairman Minuski, for their time and participation today. I would also like to thank all of you for sharing your evening with us as we premiered Benefiting Our Community and Restoring Our Waters. Thanks again, and enjoy the rest of your evening.